Okay, we should be recording now. So I don't know if this is the first. Is this the first meeting, combined TSC meeting that we've had so far? I know we've had other meetings, but formally, is this the first combined TSC meeting? Can anyone confirm that? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let me get my windows sorted out. So we have an agenda. We have an agenda pulled from the 3 repos. Well, let's do a quick stand-up of things that people have done relating to the various projects. Starting off with, let's go around from, I don't know what order everyone has on their screen, but I guess, am I first on the screen for everyone, or is that just me?
Yeah, you're first for me.
Okay, so my stand-up is, so I've been very busy with work the past 3 weeks, but I'm back home now and settling in. We've done some interesting stuff on the build working group Convergence with Joint Node. Been looking at combining the Jenkins setup for both and combining some of the resources. That's been very productive so far. We've got some ongoing meetings with the IOJS build team and some of the Node.js folks. So I'm happy about that. And we're pushing towards 3.0 release in IOJS. So there's an issue that I haven't looked at the discussion on, but it looks like it's getting some wild discussion on GitHub. But there's a proposal for a 3.0 release of IOJS with V8 4.3. Includes some dramatic changes to the C++ API that's going to basically require everyone to change their add-ons. So there's that. So who's next? James, do you want to give us a quick stand-up?
I apologize.
Shieki.
Yes. Yeah, that's all I did. Next, stop.
Been working on just little things, convergence issues. My turn now. I be calling.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Last week I was in Austin for Enterprise.js. I've been working on some libviewd stuff for adding the home directory lookup to IOJ. So I'll be merging that in once the libviewd update gets in. And other than that, just request and we are. The next person on my list, Chris.
Cool. So over the last week, looking towards removing sys, doing the due diligence on figuring out how much it affects. So progress with that. That's what I end of the week usually. Also fixing a bug that I fixed that causes some weirdness with the node REPL history versus some history stuff. And that's almost done. I just need to add a comment. So thanks, Ben, for reviewing that. I think next on my screen is Bert.
Okay, not that I have anything interesting to say. I dealt with some issues, I believe, since the last meeting we had. But other than that, I can't really remember. Boring. Alexis?
Yeah, I've been working with Rod and Bill on reconciling CI. So I'm working on making a copy of the current IOJS CI job to cover join and node, and also porting a copy of node accept for requests so that people can try it out and we can continue discussion on that. And then besides that, answering the community on Windows issues and Windows issues. That's it. Trevor?
Been mainly working on the buffer implementation on U in 8 array. Also a few internal things to aid in debugging and analysis, but that's about it. Next is a phone number. I can't tell.
Yeah, I think that's me. It's Michael Dawson. I've been doing some work with Devin, who's another one of our team members, on the node triage that James mentioned earlier. Spinning up the benchmarking work group. The other things that I've been wanting to get to but haven't made much progress yet on is automated NPM testing. Add that to the Jenkins jobs for the node build, as well as looking to add some power machines to the build farm so that I could spin up power builds. I learned in one of the earlier meetings this week that IOJS next includes 4.3 of V8, which is the first level that power is fully supported in. So, I'm going to look to see if I can spin up some builds there, possibly in our internal build structure, infrastructure first, and then move those over to the converged one. That is for me. Next is, again, a phone number. I
believe that's Mike Dolan. Oh, that's Mike Dolan. I don't have any agenda items. I was just listening into the TSC call today. I didn't realize it was on the agenda. All right.
Next would be Brian then.
Primarily, the thing that I've been working on is the Pure.js DNS resolver.
Cool.
I've got it to a point now where I will probably be making a pull request, initial pull request and soliciting initial feedback, trying to get a feel for what kind of features we want to see, like at least in the initial go for this, like DNSSEC or things like that. But otherwise, all the basic features are there. All the tests pass, including internet tests. So that's pretty much all I've been working on. Next would be Ben, I guess.
Hey, I have been doing the same old review and pull request. I landed a couple of fixes. I made require a bit faster, but especially when you're debugging an application. I've been trying to get some performance improvements to date.now landed in upstream V8, which has been let's say a frustrating experience. It in turn required to get some patches upstream in Chromium. The patch, the V8 patch has landed 3 times now and has been refurthered 3 times for breaking some of their build bugs. Well, yeah, that's about it for me.
Ben, have you considered? I don't think. Would that be more?
You're breaking up for me, Trevor.
Performance.now, would that be more of a Chromium thing or a V8 thing?
No, it's a date.now.
Yeah, no, I'm asking like about an implementation of performance.now. I feel like that would be useful.
I speculate that would be a Chromium thing, not a V8 thing. So something for the embedder.
Okay.
Okay, so let's skip over to just get straight into the meeting. The first item we have on the agenda, these first few come from the new Converge repo. So I suspect, James, you're responsible for putting some of these on the agenda, so we might get you to lead into them if there's discussion to be had here. First one is issue number 23 on the Converge repo, Node.js/Node. Timers avoid linear scan in _unref active.
So, yeah, several of these, I mean, the just myths that have gone in that for various reasons not landed over in IOJS. And this one for 23, really made some performance improvements around unref active. It seems that in parallel there was some work going in on the IOJS side in the same area, but we have a conflicting approach. Ben, you may be able to comment on this in a bit more detail. We just need to decide. This doesn't look like it's it impacts API in any way. So there's nothing, I don't think there's anything there we have to be concerned about with regards to backwards compatibility or breaking things between the two implementations, but there are performance considerations. So we need to decide which approach. We stick with the IOJS current approach, or if we land it.
What I would suggest is to simply do away with current code and rewrite it using something that performs better, because both IOJS and Node.js are pretty much terrible, only under different workloads. I know Jeremiah has been asking about that this week, so maybe if you want to pick up the torch, you're welcome to it.
Yeah, I might see if I can do something with the heap implementation you already have, whatever you have done of it, and then see how that performs. Although I don't have access to like Linux performance profiling tools. So.
And so what's kind of wrong with both unref active in Node and IOJS? is that it tries a little bit too hard to only ever create one C++ timer, but that's it becomes a bit pathological here. And instead, what it should do is just create one timer for every different timeout value that exists, just as it used to work before unref active even existed.
Isn't that what normal unref timers do?
Well, yes, that's also how normal unref timers work. And so I think until like somewhere in the 0-10 line, there were like this whole unref active wasn't a thing. It was just added because there was some issue where if you would unref an HTTP request, the timeout timer that was associated with it would not be unrefed, and so it would still keep the loop open. So that's why this Colucci hack was added. But if we just start with like sort of what we want to achieve, then it's much easier to understand how to.
Couldn't like the HTTP unref just unref any timers associated with it?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated. So what happens is there's this practically internal API, which is timer.active and timer.enroll, which, I mean, as far as I know, is not documented and not used anywhere in the ecosystem. It's only used inside Node itself. And those APIs are primarily there for performance because they turn any object into a timer object in a way. And then that object can be part of a linked list, and the entire linked list has one associated C++ timer with it. But then what happens if you unwrap it is it's that object that has sort of become a timer is taken out of the linked list, and then there's another list with all the unwrapped timers, basically. And that's very difficult to manage, which is why it is not really slow.
Okay, can I suggest that we move this to GitHub, because the agreement is to, well, so far the agreement is to, the proposal is to just re-implement something new. So how about we at least let Jeremiah start on that, and anyone else that wants to jump in on that effort, do that. And we can revisit if there's problems with that. So
I'm cool with that.
Sounds good.
Then as far as the convergence issue is concerned, we'll just kind of put it on hold until we see, and we won't land any of the changes from there.
Sounds good.
You're okay with that? Good?
Julian's input on that, since I know he was the one that was working on the other version of timers. But other than that, I'm good with that.
Yeah, he's on vacation this week, so okay, I'll ping him on the GitHub, and hopefully he can land.
Cool. Okay, so just the what's the holdup with the child process argument type checking? Issue number 22. James?
So with this one, it's just a matter of whether this should land. It looks like we've first, there's a comment here, Sam, saying that the commit, you didn't want to bring these over for some reason. That's what I didn't understand. If there was some particular reason why these should not land.
I remember something about it when we were working on IOGS and we wanted to bring in commits from Node 0.10. I don't really remember exactly what the issue was.
Yeah, I don't remember these commits.
It may also just have been merge conflicts or something. So I don't know.
Were these changes in IOJS, or are these joint node changes? Are they?
These. I think. I'm not sure about these changes, but there were changes in joint node 0.10 that were done after the fork that we at that time did not port to IOJS. You know what I mean?
And I thought we had some type checking in there for child process that came afterwards.
I think we did a different thing.
Okay.
Trevor, you landed these. Can you comment on these? On why these were necessary?
Oh, crap. Sorry, I was only paying half attention because I didn't think this was going to pertain to me.
It's issue number 22 in the Convergence repo. I'll post the link in the chat here. It has to do with the child process argument type checking. There's 3 primary commits. There is check exec file arg is an array, check fork arg is an array, and then you added a test case, test all spawn parameter position.
Okay.
Looks like there wasn't it wasn't looked at like a lot yet on the Convergence repo by the people who are involved. So maybe we should just skip.
I wonder, is there any objection on this call to just merging it?
Yeah, I just did a quick check and they look all right to me. So I'll take a better look after the call, but I don't see a reason right now not to merge them.
Yeah, like from the discussion I had on the issues, it looked like it was just up and agreement verification. It wasn't like anything critical. It was just good to have in there, better to have in there.
I wonder.
Yeah, it's probably that's anything else we probably defer to GitHub discussion on that. I just want to make sure there were no, there were no specific reasons why they hadn't been brought over.
Okay, the next one is the SSL version 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think this one is pretty well decided. I mean, they deal with the enable SSL2 and enable SSL3 switch. There's a number of commits here, but they all tie back to that. Since that was removed in IRJS, we would first need to decide to revert that change before any of these are actually relevant. I don't think we have any consensus on actually subverting those, so I think it's pretty well straightforward.
Does anyone object to just having the LTS for these 2 broken features just be 0.12?
I guess
your question, do we mind keeping them alive in 012?
Yeah, like just leaving them there and just having that if people absolutely need it, they go and use that.
So not have them in later versions. No, of course I totally agree with that. 0.12 is the last version that SSL support.
So I guess a better question is:
agreeing with that.
Is there anybody on this call that wants to maintain SSL 2.3 support going forward, or are we happy with killing it off? Obviously, the IOJS side has been happy with that, but and Julian's not here, unfortunately.
The only question which we were trying to track down some more info is how much it's used. We were trying to run some queries in our Bluemix environment to try and figure that out. But it's going to break a lot of customers, and there's a potential concern if we can figure out that we don't think it's not going to affect anybody that we're left.
SSL v2, well, I hope that in this day and age no one uses that anymore. v3 might still be in use, but the few that use it really should upgrade to CLS. So I personally don't see a reason to keep it around.
Yeah, it was certainly disabled, right? But with the option just be saying, no, you can't, your stuff, you have to change.
So at this point, pending the result of that research, I think we leave this alone. We don't merge these commits. If we come back with evidence that says, yeah, that they'll actually break people, Michael, when we're going through our research, then we can try to make a case for reverting to ISS and then pulling these things in. I'm just not seeing a strong reason for us to merge these at this point.
Yeah, no, I think it would make sense. You know, it will be a new major version.
Right.
It's a better time to do it.
So those are the only three that are somewhat controversial. There's other ones that need to be figured out. The IPU, INTL stuff. I'll be working with Stephen on a bit more, and depending on how that goes, if we can't resolve everything, the GitHub issues, we may bring that here, but we'll try to get that one resolved without pretty much.
I know Bert had some reservations about the I-18N work. Me personally, I'd be happy to just merge it as is. Then we can look into improving it.
Yeah.
That's our plan at this point. It's just, you know, make sure everything is working as it currently does in as well, and then make some iterations before the actual LTS release.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I always said it shouldn't be a roadblock for reconciliation, so just merge it. That's fine.
Okay, let's move on. The next item is working groups. So the proposal was to add 3 new working groups: benchmarking, internationalization, and post-mortem debugging. And Michael has posted a list of preliminary members for those working groups.
For internationalization, I still actually need to do some more work just to get this bootstrapped, so we can pull that off the list for consideration today. On benchmarking, the post-mortem is a little bit more mature.
Yeah, I've seen some work going on in the benchmarking group. Post-mortem, I seem to remember Fedor had some stuff. Voxer was relying on this stuff, so I don't know if he should be pulled into that group. But what's going on in the post-mortem debugging group? Is that actually met or anything happened there?
Yeah, it's going to spin up. I was talking to Chris about that today, and he just wanted to see how the first meeting of the benchmarking group went. I think just to see, having been participating in one meeting before he sets it up, so I expect we'll be scheduling the first meeting, the next couple days. There is a list of about, I have to go back and find, but it's at least, 3 or 4 people who are interested in participating.
So the current status is that Michael suggested that they may be marked as in an incubating state, and the repos have been created for them already, apparently. So I guess in this call, if there's anyone that objects to them going forward, then say that now. Otherwise, we just let them incubate and then adopt their own charters and everything else they need. I'm not really sure what the process should be at this level, to be honest. Let's move on. Trevor, I think this is probably your one, issue number 1810 in IOJS, buffer implemented using uint 8 array. You just want to tell us the status of that?
Yes, I actually have it working.
And
Is it fast?
Well, okay, so, huh?
I said, cool. Is it fast?
I have literally got it working while this call has been going, so I haven't had a chance to do that. But all applicable tests pass. I have it running behind a flag. So the questions I want to pose to the group for discussion are, when it is introduced, I guess a preliminary to this question is, are we going to release 4.3 or will we jump to 4.4? If we go with 4.3, do we want to release this behind a flag for testing in the wild? If we go with 4.4, then we just have to swap it out. There's no option to do anything else. Also, let's see. So Ben, you did the array buffer allocator. When you did, you put in a hard limit of the K max length, or I forget that, yeah, of the K max length. So it'd be the same as buffer. That upper limit now no longer is necessary with array buffer. So I was wondering if there would be any problem removing that, starting with at least 4.3. And let's see.
Yeah, it should be safe to remove.
Okay, thank you.
I seem to have missed some controversy overnight about 4.3. What was the question about doing a 4.3 or skipping to 4.4? Where did that come up?
It came up in the look at the v3.0 release issue.
Mm-hmm.
Also the I think that's the one where Dominic and Koopa, what's his name?
Benjamin.
Sorry, I only know people's handles. We're discussing the merits and issues with either upgrading 4.3 or waiting for 4.4, since apparently we know we've had significant changes in 4.3 and again in 4.4. If either we can introduce 4.3 without introducing more breaking changes in 4.4 somehow, because that would just prove to be a pain. Now, just because Dominic asked, I'm going to voice his opinion of him strongly believing that that would set a bad precedence and that we should stick with the V8 release schedule and not skip any releases. So those are the kind of the two sides. I honestly don't care one way or the other. I'm just curious. Like I've been working really hard to have this done before what I thought would be the 3.0 release with 4.3. But I'm just opening this up for discussion.
I have some interest in 4.3, and I guess it depends on what would end up being in the Converged release, because that's the first release that will fully support PPC. So if we skip that and go to 4.4, and that doesn't make the Converged release, that wouldn't be so good for PPC support versus we pull in 4.3, it is there already. I don't know how.
Well, I'm not sure. Okay, so now, Rod, this is something for you. Would there be a V3 without a V8 upgrade? Because as far as I know, there aren't any major breaking changes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any Semver major except for the V8.
Yeah, so I think basically all we'd be doing is delaying the 3.0 release until 4.4.
So the argument is that there's going to be this is dramatic breakage for add-ons, and then there's going to be another set of breakage for add-ons at 4.4, both of which can be dealt with by NAN, except you're going to have to rewrite your add-ons to deal with a new NAN API for both. So it's going to be two sets of trauma. So the argument is maybe we should just decrease that to one set of trauma. Is that the summary of the argument?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
I wonder if we can deal with that better just by messaging, and we can say to people, this is going to happen, and it's your choice whether you go through the work twice or defer that work for a 4.0 in your add-ons. I know that could be quite traumatic for everyone since this has a huge impact, but if we just let people know that's what's going to happen, and maybe if we can get onto the NAN work for 4.4, fairly quickly, we can start having pre-releases of that out.
Well, I'm fairly sure Benjamin has already dealt with 4.4 API incompatibilities in NAN 2.0. So 4.4 will already be handled.
Okay, so it's only one set of breakage then.
Yes.
So it's not a big deal then. It's just you've got to rewrite stuff anyway.
You'll have to talk to Benjamin about that. I'm not quite sure.
Okay,
he seemed concerned about it.
Okay.
I think the argument is that there will be changes in 4.3. People will have to upgrade their dependency chain, and then in 4.4 there will be another set of changes. Now, if you're going to ask what these exact changes are, I may draw a blank.
Is it the maybe stuff?
Yeah, that's part of it, but I think there's more.
Yeah, there's plenty of maybe stuff in 4.3 already.
Okay, well, and then there's the buffer stuff in 4.4, which is we're going to have a NAND interface for buffer. And it sounds
actually no. The majority of the buffer interface will remain the same. It will return a maybe. But yeah, okay. But NAND has already taken care of that, and the changes are minimal.
Okay, so just to summarize, I don't think there's any appetite at this level to defer a 3.0 release with 4.3. I don't hear anyone here actually advocating that. So maybe we just take the discussion back to GitHub and see if anything else comes out of that discussion there.
Okay. In the case of a 4.3 release, do we want the new buffer implementation to be behind the flag, or do we just want to release it completely?
Is it possible to put it behind a flag but make it the default? So have a flag to revert back to the old behavior?
Yeah. All I'd have to do is switch the global flag. That'd be easy.
Yeah, I think that would have my preference, because if you put it behind a flag and it's not default, then no one's going to test it.
How mature?
Yeah, that's also my recommendation.
How mature is it, Trevor? How close to having it ready?
All test pass. It's not super pretty right now. I still have some cleanup. I have a little bit of native API, like I said earlier, to return the maybe locals, and then something with Node V8 stuff. But other than that, it works fine.
And you don't have any performance numbers?
JavaScript side, I don't notice any API difference.
How much work do you think it's going to take to review?
Moderate. Yeah, I wouldn't say difficult. Because fortunately, I did a couple minor refactors in the Node buffer C++, which allowed me to basically use the exact same names, and then I just have two macros. Then, depending on the flag, it will either use one set of macros or the other, and basically blow up the variables that each function needs. So the C++ changes are minimal. The JavaScript is annoying, to say the least, because working with that flag from the JavaScript side means a lot of, like, I can't just rename functions and then do assigning, because then the rename function shows up like in your console output, right? So I have to have these massive if statements.
Okay, how big is the diff step?
1,200 lines. I think at least 200 to 300 of those are just from white space changes.
Okay, well, that sounds manageable. Okay, yeah, well, if so, it's compiling. Well, if you follow pull request, I'll try to take a look at it tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, everything's compiling and all tests are passing right now. Now for 4.3 though, we do have maybe Dominic has the fixes for these, but 4.3 is failing on a couple of VM tests, and I can't do anything about those.
No, you need to grab the latest next branch.
Latest next?
Yeah, it shouldn't be failing anymore. I did a force push with a I floated an upstream patch that V8 has that fixes it. So tests should be passing on your machine. There's a couple of tests that have become flaky that we haven't figured out yet, but it should be passing.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
Okay, so that's okay. It sounds like we're going to work on a 3.0 with 4.3, but it's probably not going to be particularly fast because we need to get this sorted out. But yeah, the moving forward with the new buffer implementation with the old one still available behind a flag.
Okay, one consideration for everyone. I'm not quite sure how this will affect anyone, but this means that buffer has no upper limit.
I think that will make a lot of people very happy.
Oh, okay.
But like, how does it work with like city beat numbers and stuff like that in JavaScript?
With what?
Well, in JavaScript you have just 32 bits of precision, so naturally, or if you're not using 56 bits from the floats, so does it work with floats, or how does it work with more than 32 bits to address?
It works the exact same way as the current buffer implementation because of some of the V8 team backported a couple V8 APIs to 4.3 from 4.4 that allow us to sugarize the use of the U and 8 array internally, and basically after that point treat it the exact same as we did with buffer.
Ah, okay, so it's basically just the same as we had it until we decided to update. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, this one's a little bit hairy. So issue number 1750 on IOJS. This is about FFI. Nate is wanting to get a whole lot of changes in, mainly to the buffer interface to make it possible to do a whole lot of low-level work with buffer. The reason it's come here, Trevor, I might hand over to you to explain the reason for this. The concerns.
Okay. My main concern is the ability to, it's not without reason that it is possible to write directly to a buffer and then execute that buffer using the FFI interface. Now, Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, that's right. That's awesome, isn't it? I mean, what? I don't see anything wrong with it. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm pretty sure you're trolling me.
I'm joking, but yeah, what you say is true. But I mean, I think it's understood that if you use FFI, that well, yeah, that you're treading in hot water, and that it's easier to blow your foot off. Only use it if you know what you're doing.
So I think one of the things here is that we're actually moving away from the in the past the JavaScript layer has been fairly safe. You've been protected from a lot of things that could possibly go wrong at the system level, but the FFI changes are bringing in a lot of options, a lot of new foot guns, and a lot of potential. I don't know if you call them security problems, but you know, it's no longer as much of a protected environment as it once was. And I guess that for me, that's the concern here, is that we're changing a philosophy here about what we're exposing, I think. You're effectively being able to do systems level stuff, systems level programming in the JavaScript layer.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, yeah, you can already load arbitrary code through native add-ons.
Yeah, but that's an extra step, and you could actually prevent native add-ons from being used. So, and you have to have them compiled and available. With this, you know, it adds another injection point for people to, if they've got badly written JavaScript, to inject code that would execute systems level stuff.
Yeah, okay, I don't disagree with that. if people feel that that's a big issue, we could always opt to move the code out of buffer into a separate FFI module.
That could then possibly just be disabled. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. One of the options I thought was we could start off with at least putting this behind a flag, feature flag, just to make progress. I know lots of people are clamoring for a good FFI interface, so I think it'd be hard to just say no to all of this stuff. But how do we proceed in a way that is safe? So I was thinking a flag was a good first step, but yeah, moving it to a separate module would actually be very interesting.
Yeah, I think a module would be better than a flag. I mean, to borrow from Python, we're all consenting adults here. So let people do what they want to do.
I do agree with that, but it's just it's not it's a change in the nature of what Node is. So I'm all for giving users power, but so far that power has been fairly limited. So it's a big shift in saying, okay, you've got this environment that you're constrained to do these things. Oh, you can do extra stuff in add-ons.
Well, I mean, like it's impossible to say you can do stupid stuff through Node. You can only say we support you not being able to do stupid stuff through our support interface. But as soon as you touch process.bindings or other unsupported interfaces, you can blow up your machine just as easily as now. I believe that if it in its entirety could be moved to its own FFI require, at least then for enterprise customers, it's much easier to disable at a single location instead of needing to disable that and then half a dozen buffer methods.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Put all the new potential, all the stuff that is useful for FFI but not for anything else into a FFI module. Is that the proposal? Let's put that back to the issue and see how that goes down in discussion. Okay. The Chrome 43, the next issue is 1735. It's about Chrome 43 released. The reason this was on the agenda is because Jeremiah had concerns about, again, about the downstream dependencies forcing our semver major number. Jeremiah, do you want to discuss this or should we move on? Is he here?
I think he's lost.
We've lost him. Okay, we're going to move on because the dramatic C++ changes, I think, pretty easily warrant the major version bump. Deprecation policy, do we need to discuss this at this level? Chris, do you want to kick this one off? This is issue number 1704 on IOJS.
So the discussion was pretty much how do we go through and deprecate things, and what's the ultimate goal of deprecation, whether it's like domains is likely to be kind of a barnacle that lives on Node forever, versus something like sys, where we can actually like possibly go remove it, and what we need to do to go remove it. It kind of roughly breaks into two camps. One camp is in favor of setting a deprecation policy where there is either a time limit or a major version limit for the number of like releases before we just out and out remove something. The other camp is that, and for purposes of disclosure there, I'm part of this camp, figuring out how much is breaking and then determining a acceptable amount of breakage and working with the ecosystem to get to that level of breakage from the initial, like, say, removing sys breaks 20,000 modules, 20,000 weekly downloads on NPM. How many modules do we have to patch before we can get it back to, 100 that they're broken, or packages representing 100 weekly downloads? And that's sort of involved. I've been working on that because not only do you have to fix the packages that actually have a problem, you have to walk out from them to all their dependents that have pinned versions. So if they're not floating using tilde or caret, then you have to go fix those, and everything's depending on those. So you actually have to build up a kind of sizable walk of the graph. And so I'm using it as sort of a test run to see if that's possible, if that is in fact a thing that we can write into a deprecation policy. Generally, I think the debate here, the reason it's TSC agenda, is whether it's basically put it to the TSC whether we want to go a route of hard time limit or hard feature or hard assembler number and then removal, or we want to go the route of avoiding breakage, which we've kind of done in the past.
I'll be having it.
I think I
Very soon,
take
very soon.
into consideration that in my mind it probably should be LTS released as opposed to just major.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is, yeah.
Chris, what's the argument for formalizing a deprecation policy instead of doing it on a case-by-case basis?
It's been coming up a lot in the issues. When people want to try and deprecate something or change something. For example, if we wanted to change that underscore events property on event emitters, we would have to go through a full deprecation cycle on that because people actually use that. And that's going to be a question of whether it goes down like a route of how much do we fix, or does it just exist forever as this deprecated thing, and whether or not we just like put a hard stop on it at some point to say, okay, it's gone now, and then whatever breaks and whoever hasn't updated, go fix your package.
I really think this. Well, okay, if you need to formalize it, I mean, there's like buffer.get and .set, which has like I put a comment in there back in 0.9 or 0.10 to have it removed, and it's still there, and it has caused no issue for anyone, to work around it because it's kind of tiny and self-contained, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't see the issue leaving something like that. Domain though is a special little bunny because it just made, well, when I was trying to write like async and other stuff, it made my life horrible because it has its little furry paws into every different aspect of things running. The problem with deprecating it and removing it is that there is no comparable functionality that currently exists to that. And so when it comes to deprecating, I think we need to assess what functionality are we removing, and is there an alternative?
Well, the other reality is that there's people that rely on domains. I think most importantly have to be those. So we just cannot remove things. I don't know. I'm in favor of having a deprecation policy. But the deprecation policy is probably that we don't do it, or very sparingly. And if we do it, we'll announce it like a long time before stuff actually gets removed. But I don't see much benefit in, like making all these like tiny little changes that make no life there, but are just painful for people to deal with.
Yeah.
Removing sys in particular, I think there was a debate about that. It is a really interesting test case now because it's so simple, and it's also so simple to undo if there turns out to be some fallout. But realistically, like, sys doesn't get in the way. Like, we can just leave it there until the end of the century. Nobody cares. So.
Yeah, I think that's where specifically domains stand apart, is that they do get in the way. Whenever I try and do anything asynchronous, I need to work around them in some way.
Yeah, and so sys in this case is a test case. It's basically to see if we can go out and find breakage and patch it before we actually, break people's code in advance of whatever changes we need to make. Say removing domains, possible, going out and seeing like where they're used in the community, and then what the extent of work would be to get to a point that we fix some percentage of the premium, so that it's possible for people to upgrade without having to like fix thousands of packages. So it's in this case, what the things I'm working towards are sort of an experiment to see if we can actually put that in as part of the deprecation policy and have like a clear path to go down in things like domain, or if we had to like remove a global feature, like if we were to remove the like uppercase global, we'd probably want to go through and make sure that we're not like setting fire to thousands of packages.
Like,
so, oh, sorry, Trevor, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, how does the, like, what pain does the uppercase global have for us? I know it's stupid, but unless you can verify, like, nobody uses it,
yeah,
then I don't see the harm of leaving it in.
So I know maybe not uppercase global, but root has caused pain before. It is often surprising to run into. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, we don't know. There are cases where we have globals that cause pain. We don't currently know how much pain, like how widespread their use is. But if we wanted to like actually, scrape some of that cropped off, we could actually go out and look at, how much of it is in use in the ecosystem first, and then use that to decide whether or not to go forward with a full deprecation.
Chris, is there anything that you would like from this group in this discussion now, or can we defer it back to the GitHub discussion to continue?
I think putting it back on GitHub is absolutely fine.
So I think the point is that those of you who are interested in this discussion that haven't engaged in that discussion should go to that GitHub issue and contribute.
Maybe we can do a quick poll who's in favor of a deprecation policy and who wants it, wants to keep it like we do it now, case by case. I personally am strongly in favor of just case by case. It's probably never a single right answer. So I do applaud Chris's initiative of trying to check up front how much breakage deprecation removal would cost.
I'm in favor of a formal policy so that people know what to expect, and we as a group understand the procedure. And also the fact that case by case has led to very few deprecations. So very, very little removal of technical debt.
Yeah, I'm gonna straddle the fence a little bit. So, I think we should have a formal policy with allowance for case by case exceptions. For the most part, for most things, it should be, following that policy. But if something comes up that is clear that needs to be handled differently, then we can.
And I think the answer to that, Ben, is that there's no consensus here. So maybe back to discussion. Sorry, James, you were going to say something?
I know I love it.
Okay. Okay, let's just move that discussion to GitHub. It's getting a bit late in this call, so I don't think it's worth hammering that out too much further. The next item on the agenda was number 1697 on IOJS, which was that the TSC needs to elect a board representative to the foundation. The ongoing discussion there, I suggested that it just felt a bit quick to be electing someone to represent this group, since we've only just started meeting together. So one of the suggestions was to just elect an interim person for that. I'm not sure that there's urgency that this needs to be done now, and we're sort of losing people off this call, so I'm not sure we even can. But maybe the suggestion is to flag this for voting at the next meeting if it's actually becoming that urgent.
Do you have a feeling of who's interested in taking that on?
We had Bert put up his hand. I don't know if anyone else has.
I think several of us have put Bert's hand up for him.
Well, I'm actually I am actually interested in doing it, and others have put me off. But I wondered, Rod, whether you would also be interested in doing it.
I am interested, but I'm also wary of overextending myself because I'm already overextended. So and I'm not really in a position to give a final answer on that right now. But yeah.
So one issue that I would see with it, we can select somebody, but at some point we're going to have to figure out if we want this entire term. I don't want to burden one person with that responsibility for too long. If we want to time bound it and make it an annual thing or whatever.
I thought that at least in the original charter for the foundation, I thought that this was one of those rotating roles anyway. Maybe not now, but
yeah, I believe it is, but I think it's also deferred to TSC to decide the actual process.
Right. Okay. Look, let's put the discussion back to GitHub and maybe come for nomination voting next meeting. Make sure that everyone who is a possible representative can have the chance to put their 2 cents in, and whether they want to be that person, because I know Julian at least is missing from here, and he may have an interest. Okay, please stop me if I'm moving on too fast here, but the next issue was 1451 on IIJS, which was about 4.4, removing index properties. I think we've done this one in talking about the buffer upgrades. That's the whole reason for redoing buffer in the first place. So I think we'll probably just remove the TC agenda item from that, unless Trevor's still on here. No, he's not. So I don't think there's anything to discuss with this. So it's going to be a bit late, but if there's anyone on IRC that wants to do any QA, people need to speak now, or we might just move on to, while waiting for QA, we might move on to talking about next meeting. So the proposal would be for a week from now. Is that, does anyone have any trouble with this time slot?
So Iggy, how early do you need to get up?
It may be problematic for me. I've got kids out of school next week, so so I will let folks know. I'll give my regrets this morning. I'm not going to make it.
No problem for me. It's okay to get up early.
5 a.m. Well done.
We're on the administrative side of things. Is it possible to get an additional email added to me? Because when I got the invite for, it wouldn't let me open the Google meeting.
Yeah, sure. Can you just respond to that email and let me know which email address it should be?
Okay, sure.
So I don't have the date.
You actually, you're on the TSC meeting, right?
Okay, so the next meeting would be the. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I don't think I can respond to that email. The chair shows up as a dot.
Okay, can you put it in the chat for this Uber? Oh no, you can't. You're on the thing. Just email me on at rod@vag.org. Yeah, and I'll put you on whatever the lists are and access to stuff. Okay, so the next meeting would be June the 3rd US time, or UTC, and June the 4th for those of us on the other side of the globe. At the same time. Okay, is there anything else anyone wants to raise before we wrap this up? Nope. Okay.
No. Well, I'm happy that we had a TSC meeting again.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been good and productive.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye bye.